Hey everybody, we're in this video talking about tips for taking photos of your rental properties. I am actually sitting where we record the podcast in the office at Rent Prep. That's why I got this kind of funny looking microphone stand here. But I put of your rental properties in parentheses because I have gone to classes on photos. I would not say I'm a photo expert, but I am much better than your average landlord, and I got some tips I can share with you. So that's what the purpose of this video is get your photos a little bit better. All right. So, what kind of camera should you get? Well, I think a lot of landlords, you might stick with your smartphone, or others might be thinking, like, well, should I be getting a low end DSLR camera? I mean, there's pros and cons to both. But with the iPhone 6, that's what I have actually. I'm going to show you the photos that I've taken in this video. I use an iPhone 6 Plus, which is already outdated, but it was released in September 2014. I already own it. It's 8 megapixel camera. Now, if you compare that to, let's say you bought a camera in 2008 and you got a low-end DSLR, it's a 10 megapixel camera that would have cost you $1,000. The reason I have this this graphic here is, yes, there's a 6-year difference, but chances are if you go out and you spend money on a low-end DSLR camera for your rental properties, in about 6 years, 5 years, maybe less, it's probably going to be about the same quality of camera that's inside of your phone in your hand. So just keep that in mind. If you have a lot of rental properties, a DSLR camera makes sense. If you just have one or two and you're only going to buy that camera just to take photos of your rental property, maybe you can skirt by with just using a high-end smartphone. So the first step, and as I mentioned, all these photos so far, they are untouched. I haven't edited them at all. We're going to get to that later in the video. But this is more so about just different tips and techniques when you're taking some photos of your rental property. So this first step, think about the way you frame your shots. So on the left, you're a little bit too far out from the subject matter. This is supposed to be showing the kitchen, but you can see an unfinished doorway on the left and a garbage can. You can see some light that's on the right-hand side there that's kind of coming through the windows, and it just doesn't look good. On the right, in this photo, I just moved in a little bit, and the imagination fills in the rest of the kitchen for you. So you can't even see where the kitchen ends, even though obviously in this photo it's just to the left and just to the right. Let the person's imagination decide where the kitchen ends. It gets a little bit more attractive of a photo on the right. So you can use multiple photos to stitch rooms together. A lot of times I see people who just post one photo of each room. Why not post two? Give people a little bit more detail so you can see, this kitchen's bigger than I thought. It's got a few different things going in it. It's not a huge kitchen, but using multiple photos can help to kind of just stitch together the room for people. One thing that is a common mistake is that people get issues with the lighting. So you want to keep your main light source behind you. In this particular photo, there's a lot of light in the right-hand side coming through those windows. And when you're pointing at the light, it's going to make for a bad photo. It's very gloomy looking. On the photo on the left, the natural light is behind me when I took this photo. And it just looks like a much higher quality photo of the kitchen on the left compared to the kitchen on the right. So also pay attention to the camera level, so where you're actually holding the camera. This is especially important if you end up using a fisheye lens ever. And the photo on the left, it's a little too high. The photo in the middle is a better height, and the photo to the right is too low. Well, the too high photo, it's kind of obvious. It just looks strange. Who wants to cook in that kitchen? The photo that's too low, the biggest issue with that is if you're trying to show off the countertops or the range on the stove, you don't really see it. So if you get too low, you don't see the features of the kitchen quite as well. Very important tip, and hopefully you don't do this, but I do see these in rental listings from time to time, is to mind your hands. So the photo on the left, you can see the thumb was slightly on the lens. It's a really bad look. Also, if you look at the faucet, there's a little bit of blur on the faucet, and that's because the hands were moving. Even though the iPhone 6 Plus has the optical image stabilization, it doesn't work perfectly. If your hand's moving a little bit, it's going to pick it up. And the third thing wrong on the photo on the left is the lighting contrast. So you can see the couch in the background. That's actually a living room. And above that, there's the natural light coming in. And because the lens isn't going to be able to handle all the different contrasts in the photo, it's going to mess with the photo a little bit. Image in the right is a much sharper image. You look at that faucet, it's much sharper. And there's less lighting contrast, so it just gives a cleaner image. And again, none of these photos are edited yet. So you also want to show out the features. So on the image to on the left, I might look at that and just be like, oh, okay, there's drawers. Who cares? I don't really care. But somebody like my wife would care because she would say, wow, like I didn't realize that these were heavy duty storage savers. Pull out the drawers and somebody can see that there's a crock pot in there and some heavy devices. So these are some pretty sturdy drawers that are great for storage. So just make sure that you're showing off the features with the photos. That's always a nice thing to do. Also, consider playing with the lighting. If you have this availability, on the left-hand side, you can see that we have warm light that's coming from those recessed LEDs, and there's also the cool light, more of a daylight white that's coming from that main light. The photo on the right is just warm lighting. So what you can see if you look and you focus on the photo on the left, if you look at those the cabinets there, they have the reflection of that bright, cool white. Where if you look at those same cabinets on the right-hand side, everything's kind of more of like a natural earthy tone to it. So my preference is to take the cool light out and just use warm lighting. So if you have the ability, play with the lighting, take a look in your photos, and even in this photo on the right, I might kind of crop it in a little bit in editing. But what we're going to do is in the next video is I'm going to show you how you can edit the photos. There's some free resources online. There's some paid resources, but ways to just make your photos pop a little bit more.